Welcome to the first mock draft for the 2025 NFL Draft. We still wait for the playoff teams to get settled in their actual spots, but the first 18 teams are set, and we are going to walk through every single team, multiple trades, multiple trade back into the first round trades. This is going to be a crazy draft. Before we get into it, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Max. I make football content every single week for you to stay entertained and get the best in-depth information and breakdowns for stuff like the NFL Draft, NFL offseason content, and as we get deeper into the offseason, some college player breakdowns. So if you haven't joined the family, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoy content like this, make sure you leave a like button. It takes 2 seconds, helps me out a ton. But without further ado, we are going to get into the first ever mock draft. If you guys have never done one of these mock drafts before, I'll leave a link in the description for it as well as my socials, but you can make your own mock drafts on PFF completely for free. We're going to enter the draft, and if you haven't seen the order already, here it is. You got the Titans at 1, Browns at 2, Giants at 3, Patriots at 4, and working back down the list. It's going to be a crazy draft, and the reality is teams 1 through 3 all need quarterbacks. They do. But the team that arguably, at least in my opinion, needs a quarterback the most is the team that's picking 3, the New York Giants. How do they get up to number 1? Can they get up to number 1? What I want to talk about before I break down any of that is some past overall trades for this number 1 pick. You can see, obviously, the Bears did it with Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, but they traded the first overall pick for DJ Moore, another first-round pick, a 2023 second-round pick, another first-round pick, and another second-round pick. So a big haul, but that was also moving from 9 to 1, right? You can see the big trade that the Titans did with the Rams to get Jared Goff. You had a Michael Vick trade. It doesn't happen super often that the number 1 overall pick is traded. Now, I don't think the Browns need a quarterback badly enough to vault up to 1 to really take their guy and mortgage a good part of their future for that number 1 overall pick. I think the Giants can do that, but you look at what Joe Schoen said today. Today's Monday, January 6th, depending on when you're watching this. Joe Schoen insists he will not mortgage the Giants' long-term future to put together a better team this year right now. That could mean a couple things. Number 1, long-term future to put together a team better this year right now. That doesn't necessarily mean they're not opposed to trading up for that number 1 pick because you can get your quarterback. It's not just making a better team this year, it's making a better team down the line. But 2, you can move back into the first round, which I think we're going to see a little bit later in this draft, to still get a quarterback, but not completely mortgage your future, not give away multiple first-round picks, multiple first- and second-round picks, to still get a quarterback that you like, as well as a top 3 player with that 3rd overall pick. So that means the Tennessee Titans, if you didn't pick up from what I was saying, are going to keep the 1st overall pick. And the reality is they need a quarterback too. I think they take Cam Ward at 1. Cam Ward goes number 1 to the Tennessee Titans, and now you're the Cleveland Browns on the clock. I'm sure the Browns are going to get a lot of calls. You can see some of the needs here. They absolutely need a tackle, but where they put that tackle is the real question. Do they get a hybrid guy? You need somebody who can be flexible. Can Will Campbell be that guy? I don't know. Honestly, I don't think so. But other teams will need Will Campbell. Other teams will like Will Campbell. He's not falling out of the top 6. We'll talk about that in a second here. But if I'm the Cleveland Browns, you want a commitment to winning. You need to figure it out right now. As much as it says they need wide receiver, I don't think that's at the top of their list. If the number 2 overall pick is there, you have to take a quarterback. That's how I see it. You take a big swing at the bat right now. You convince your best player, you convince your fans, and you convince everybody in the building that you are trying to make a push with an elite quarterback on a rookie deal. If you want to go get a journeyman, you can. So be it. Maybe the Browns go that route. But assuming they don't, assuming the roster stays the same, Shedeur Sanders, number 2 to the Cleveland Browns. And that leaves the New York Giants at number 3. Now, we've seen teams seemingly take quarterbacks when they don't need to, like Michael Penix last year, like Bo Nix last year, honestly, kind of like Anthony Richardson a couple of years ago. But I think the New York Giants and Joe Schoen are smart enough to understand that the rest of these quarterbacks are going to slip a little bit. Borderline end of first, early second quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel and Jalen Milroe. And then you have middle day 2 guys, late day 2 guys like Riley Leonard. Personally, I like Carson Beck. I think he has a lot of very good qualities as an NFL quarterback, Carson Beck and Will Howard, even Quinn Ewers. You have those guys that you can get either late first, early day 2, or you can trade back into the first to get, depending on who's ahead of you and depending on what other teams want. Here, I think the New York Giants don't beat around the bush. Their secondary was one of the worst in the NFL last year, and they take a cornerback. But I think they take a cornerback who is a little more polarizing, who could potentially add something on the other side of the ball. You guys see what I'm getting at here. And I think they go Travis Hunter at 3. Now, does Travis Hunter play every snap on each side of the ball? Probably not. That's probably the reality of it. But I do think Travis Hunter is good enough to say, hey, I can be an 80%, 90% snap corner and then go play 25, 30% of snaps on offense and add an element like that. Because you look at the Giants offense, it's not all there either. Obviously, they have Malik Neighbors, and I like Wan'Dale Robinson a lot as a pass catcher, but Tyrone Tracy really only had a good half of the year. Obviously, he was good in spurts at the beginning of the year, showed some good things as the year went on. Absolutely a piece there to stay, but you're still going to make sure he performs. Theo Johnson's coming off an injury. And outside of Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson, your receiver room is a little questionable, right? I think they take a chance with Travis Hunter on the off chance he can play a little offense and is a very good corner, which he is. We all know that. They take Hunter at 3. Now, 4, 5, 6, guys, this is tough because I have 3 players going in these 3 picks. I think you could legitimately say each team could draft any one of these 3 players, and I have no issue with it. I think the New England Patriots, who, again, have the most cap space in the NFL, I'm going to pull this up so we all see it too, have the most cap space in the NFL by far, really try to go out and get a receiver. I think the receiver market in free agency is a little bit better than the tackle market in free agency. I think they go try to sign a receiver or trade for a receiver. Tyreek Hill, they can trade and pay him now. And I think at 4, they go with a dire need offensive tackle, and they go Will Campbell. At 5, I think the Jaguars could go wide receiver here. I would not hate it if they did. I don't think outside of Brian Thomas Jr., that pass-catching unit is good enough to sustain your franchise quarterback. I don't think so. I think that's the reality. They could go Ted McMillan, but I look at this. They need DB bad, and they go Will Johnson. Now, Raiders, you see the needs. Do they reach for a quarterback here? I don't know. I think they actually haven't squeezed the rag fully with Aiden O'Connell. I think they're going to continue to lean into him a little bit, at least right now, and not go quarterback at 6. They're not going to take Ashton Genty at 6. I don't think that's a dire need either. I think they take the best player on the board at 6, and they go Ted McMillan. I think they go Ted McMillan at 6, leaving the New York Jets at number 7. To me, very clearly the Jets need some help inside, beefing that up, or offensive line help. But to be honest with you, the guys who are available right now, not a ton of interior talent that should be taken right now, right where they are. The tackles haven't been horrible for the Jets. It's more the interior than anything else. I think they lean Mason Graham. I think they go interior defensive line help. Panthers, no-brainer, Abdul Carter here. You need edge help, somebody outside of Jadeveon Clowney, somebody to fill that void that Brian Burns left when he got traded to the Giants. Absolutely no-brainer here for Abdul Carter. Now, number 9, we have our first trade. Our first trade, the New Orleans Saints are going to trade down with, we'll show you in a second here. Now, I do want to make sure everybody looks at some of these other past trades that we have seen, right? There have been plenty of trades where teams have traded back into the first, plenty of trades where teams have traded a few spots. But the best example I can see here is this 2021 trade with Devontae Smith and Micah Parsons, right? Cowboys received the 12th overall pick and a 2021, so that year's 3rd round pick. And the Eagles received Devontae Smith. They jumped 2 spots up. And that's exactly what the New Orleans Saints are going to do with the Dallas Cowboys. So they trade these picks. The Cowboys give them their 2nd round pick, and the Saints give them back their 3rd. So the Saints jump a bunch of spots in day 2, but the Cowboys jump 3 spots day 1. And you know damn well who the Cowboys are going to take right now at number 9 overall, Ashton Genty. They need a running back. I think the whole don't reach for running back argument is kind of dead, at least recently as of this point. They go Ashton Genty at 9. As crazy as it sounds, I think they do it. Pick number 10. To me, this is also a no-brainer. You go with the best tackle on the board for the Chicago Bears. They need help along the offensive line more than anything else. Kelvin Banks Jr. At number 11, I think the 49ers could go a lot of different ways, but the reality is, I don't know if you guys also saw the reports with Shedeur Ward. They need corner help. They need corner help outside of their nickel. They need corner help on the outside, especially if Shedeur Ward goes. And I think they go Benjamin Morrison here, take a corner at 11, putting the Saints back on the clock at 12. Now, you look at the quote-unquote needs for the Saints. Interior offensive line, which they do need, but those guys will be available late 1st, early 2nd, day 2. Or defensive line. On the outside, edge, I think personally they're deep enough. I don't really think they need anybody else. Cam Jordan's getting up there, but they still got Chase Young, Carl Granderson. I don't think they need to reach for somebody here. I think this is a classic, just like what the Raiders did. You take the best player on the board because your offense isn't good enough anyways, and they go Luther Burden. and take another wide receiver to pair with Chris Olave and a healthy Rashid Shaheed. I really, really like that opportunity there. Miami Dolphins on the clock at 13. Again, I think no brainer here. You need a tackle. You go Josh Simmons from Ohio State. Maybe you go DB. Maybe you want to lead wide receiver too if Tyreek Hill leaves. But the reality is they need offensive line help really bad. You got to keep Tua or whoever's going to play quarterback upright. Now you're back with the Indianapolis Colts. And I went back and forth on the Colts. Like, you can look at their tight end room and there's really nothing there, right? There's not a lot of star power there. But the reality is, at least how I see it, the vision of their offense is a run-heavy offense with Anthony Richardson at his best and Jonathan Taylor. And they have a lot of pass-catching weapons. I think what they have in the tight end room now is serviceable enough that they don't have to take one at 14. I think they go Malachi Starks, help the secondary that struggled really all year long, and try to bolster your pass defense, because the front seven in Indy, you invested in it, and it hasn't been horrible. Secondary's been struggling a lot. And I think you go Malachi Starks, you lead into the secondary. Here's where the draft gets crazy. The Atlanta Falcons are picking here at 15. You look at their edge rushers, you look at their DBs, and you look at the other important positions. They already have resources invested. Quarterback, they have a rookie. Bijan on a rookie deal. You have a really good offensive line. You have Drake London. You have Kyle Pitts. I don't think the Falcons feel a need to swing the bat right now. You know who I think needs to swing the bat? We talked about them at the beginning of the draft. The New York Giants. Yes, the New York Giants trade back up with the Atlanta Falcons when the Falcons are picking at 15, and we'll go through what past trades we have done. They trade back up and they get back into the first round. The best example I could find is when the Broncos traded for Tim Tebow. They gave up number 43 overall, a third and a fourth, to get number 25 overall for the Ravens. Now, obviously, the Giants are moving up to 15 and not 25, so it's different. But they're still giving their 35th pick, I believe. We'll pull it up right now. But the third pick in the second round, 34, the 34 for 15, as well as third round and fourth round. The Falcons are loading up. The New York Giants are giving 3 picks day one and an additional round 4 and day 2, which, again, if you're Joe Shane, is not day 2 in 2026, in year 2. If you're Joe Shane, you look at this, what you're giving up right now. This is not necessarily mortgaging your entire future. You still have multiple other later picks that you have after getting previous trades. I think Joe Shane can feel comfortable giving the Atlanta Falcons, who only have 2 other picks this year, right? They only have 2 other picks this year, some more ammo, and getting the 15th overall pick to take, quote unquote, your guy, but the best guy available at this point, which I think, even though it's a bit of a project, is Jalen Milroe. I think this provides some job security for Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. They're developing their guy. You get youth infused at the quarterback position, and you have athletic upside that really can't be matched by the top 2 quarterbacks in this draft, really any other quarterback in this draft. So if you can figure something out in terms of the arm talent, you figure something out in a scheme that's really built around Jalen Milroe, you could have something, and it's worth a shot. It's not mortgaging the future for the Giants, but they're getting a really good player at 3, and they're trading up for Jalen Milroe at 15. As crazy as that sounds, I don't think it's super far-fetched. Now we have the Arizona Cardinals at 16. Now, this is tough. I think Arizona could use an off-ball linebacker, so they go with Jalen Walker, hybrid guy. I think it's a pick that makes a lot of sense. Here's where another trade happens, though. Bengals, again, are in a spot where you need some DB help. Maybe you need some defensive line help. But you're a really good team. They're a much better team than the 17th overall pick, and that's the reality. We all know this. I think they're inclined to trade down. Somebody who I think is more inclined to trade up than people think, but only for the right player, number 25, the Los Angeles Chargers. Emphasis on only the right player. You see this right here? That tight end right there? Los Angeles Chargers don't really have a tight end. They have the Michigan history. Jim Harbaugh coaching Colston Loveland. If you're the LA Chargers and you can trade up, in this mock trade, we would have the Los Angeles Chargers giving pick 25 and a second and third round swap. So you're giving 57, 81, and an additional day 3 pick to the Cincinnati Bengals for 17. Who says no to this? I think the Bengals are happy loading up a little bit and getting an additional pick. And the Los Angeles Chargers, move up 8 spots to take a tight end that's very familiar to the system in Colston Loveland. Now, Seahawks offensive line is really the big issue here. I think they take Ariante Ursary. Again, a guy who can do a lot of different things, and you can look at what he has done and can do very, very consistently. Good in the run, good pass blocking, very similar in terms of man gap zone to what the Seahawks want to do, but has provided consistent left tackle numbers as the years have gone on. To me, that's a no-brainer there. The Seahawks go with Ursary, and the Houston Texans are on the clock at 19. Now, they can go a lot of different ways here. I think with an older interior defensive line, you lean into Kenneth Grant and you continue to try to build your run defense, but you could go DB there. You could go running back there. I think Mixon's getting up there, even though he's looked good. I think you can go a lot of different ways there. I think you go Kenneth Grant. And again, they need guards. The guards are going to be available in the later rounds, the second rounds. I don't even think I may have one guard in the first round. They can be good. They can change the game. But a lot of times this is where you take swings on tackles because they're harder to find, receivers, edges, and even quarterbacks and running backs. We'll see in a minute here. But pick 20, Denver Broncos. Again, I think if you're the Broncos, you look at what you've done this year. And again, obviously all these playoff teams can have their picks change. The numbers can change based on the result of the first round, second round playoff games. But picking a 20, you're looking at the Broncos, probably a first round exit. You realize you have to upgrade your offense in some way. It could be receiver, but I think they've invested enough into their young receivers that they don't need to do that. What they have not invested in is the tight end position. And I think Tyler Warren fits that offense perfectly, and he makes a really, really nice addition to the Broncos offense that's going to do a lot of different things, going to run the ball a lot, going to pass the ball effectively. Tyler Warren is, to me, the perfect pick for the Denver Broncos. 21, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Nick Skirton. No-brainer to me. Again, I think they need defensive line help. They need defensive help, period. They could go DB, but if you want to get after the quarterback, to me, that's what Tampa's going to do, especially in that defense. You're going to get a lot of one-on-ones. You go there. Pittsburgh Steelers, again, you need wide receiver help. Maybe you try to go offensive tackle here, but again, they've invested a ton of resources into their tackles. They haven't been great. The wide receivers, to me, the depth has been worse. And I think you need another pass catcher to go along with George Pickens if you truly want to make noise. I think Emeka Egbuka is that guy for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 23, I went back and forth because I don't think the Rams are in a spot where they feel like they need to trade or they need to pick somebody here. But I don't think the teams that are more inclined to move back into the first would really want to go that high to 23 to get their guys. Like, we're going to have one more team move back into the first, and that's going to be at the very, very end of the round. It's tough. It's really tough. I think you take a guy who, again, has proven he can consistently play left tackle when you have Rob Havenstein at the right tackle, and you try to continue to bolster your offensive line, whether it's for another year of Stafford or you're leaning into another quarterback. Sneaky quarterback team right here, though. The Los Angeles Rams would not surprise me, especially if they wanted to trade down to take Dylan Gabriel. It would not surprise me. I think they go Wyatt Milam there at 24. The Green Bay Packers, another team who I really, really thought about trading down. But again, there's a lot of teams with similar needs around here. There's really no point in trading down. I think their defensive front seven has been good, but they need some more DB depth. And I think Trey Amos at 24 is the perfect pick for the Packers. We have the Bengals picking back here after trading down. Again, another really, really difficult spot. So look, I don't think they let T. Higgins out of the building, so I don't think they need to draft a wide receiver here. I think they go Tyleik Williams and continue to bolster the run defense. That's going to make life a lot easier holistically for your defense if you can stop the run. Here, the Washington Commanders, I go back and forth on this because there are some really good edge rushers. They need to get after the quarterback, but the reality is you got to protect the franchise, man. You really got to protect the franchise. And I think Cameron Williams has to be the guy here for Texas. I think he has to be the guy here. And again, this is a player who has been pretty solid in the run, pretty solid in pass blocking, a guy who has consistently been a right tackle. That would help the Commanders out a lot. Cameron Williams at 26. 27, I think the Ravens could go a lot of different ways. I think they could lean back into their pass rush, but you talk about a lot of people talk about a Ravens identity. There is a guy to me in Jahad Campbell who can do so many different things, who is truly a Raven. Like, he can do everything. He can play in the box. He can line up along the line. He's a multiple player that's gotten better and better as the years have gone on. He will provide a new element to that Ravens defense. Truthfully, guys, I hate comparing him to Patrick Queen, but like he would be a Patrick Queen replacement. He can do so many different things. I think Jahad Campbell steps in and provides that last little bit of juice the Ravens need in that defensive room. Help them out a ton. Another team who I really, really thought about trading down was the Minnesota Vikings. Here's what's fascinating about the Vikings. You see running back. I don't know how much I believe that. Guard and corner for the needs. Now you're like, corner, their defense has been so good this year, especially in the secondary. They turn to get takeaways a ton. I got the wrong thing. Look at who's available, or look at who's leaving this year. Or at least their contracts are up. Byron Murphy, that's a starter. Stephon Gilmore, that's a starter. Shaq Griffin, that's a starter. You got a depth guy in Fabian Moreau. You got Cam Bynum. You got Theo Jackson. You got Harrison Smith. Like, I look at this. This is terrifying. Terrifying if I'm a Vikings fan. Terrifying if I'm a Vikings fan. Now, some of these guys are void. Some of them are unrestricted free agents. But the reality is, you need to fill DB depth if you're the Vikings. You need to fill that up. Now, Siobhan Rebel's a guy who plays a lot of zone and is very, very good in zone. Very, very good in zone. A true outside guy. They don't have to make Byron Murphy that outside guy anymore. I think they go Siobhan Rebel at 28. Here's our final trade of the first round. Again, I think Buffalo here, not really in a spot to try and pull the trigger on an edge rusher or reach for a wide receiver or bolster the interior offensive line. Their offensive line is pretty good. I think they would be a little more inclined to trade down, load up on a couple picks, and potentially trade for somebody at midseason next year, like a Christian McCaffrey or Von Miller type trade next year. They'd be much more comfortable loading up. And for this pick, they would only be loading up to drop 4 spots because the Cleveland Browns are going to be the team they trade with. You'd get 4 spots. The Cleveland Browns have so many extra picks that they're willing to mortgage. Andrew Berry's going to make a commitment to winning. This is going to look a little bit different. They trade a 4th-round pick to the Buffalo Bills, as well as that first/second, but 4 spot shift. And the Cleveland Browns are back on the clock at 29 to draft Omarion Hampton. Look, the reality is the Cleveland Browns need help at the running back position. Jerome Ford is injury prone. Nick Chubb, obviously been hurt, but is not the same. That will provide a new aspect to this offense that they really haven't seen in the past 2 years. Omarion Hampton's a guy that's going to get the tough yards, can pass protect. This is a guy that's going to add a new element to that Browns offense alongside Shedeur Sanders, throwing to some really good players. If their offensive line can hold up, which I think they address in the offseason, but truthfully, guys, I think when healthy is not that bad. This offense is going to look a lot better. At 30, Eagles are on the clock. You can go Mikael Williams or Shamar Stewart. I think they go Shamar Stewart. The Chiefs, very interesting. Another team that, quote, needs a running back. I don't think they do, but they need an offensive tackle. And Gray Zabel, very, very consistently in 2024, played left tackle. But look at this. This is what impresses me. A little bit of guard stuff, and he started as a right tackle. He can do both. Can he do both as effectively as each other? Probably not. But when the Chiefs need to shift him over, they can. He can start at left tackle. He did last year. Gray Zabel is the 31st overall pick, and the Detroit Lions go Mikael Williams to invest into that defensive line at the 32nd pick. So here is the beautiful first-round mock draft. Let me know what you guys think of this. Let me know what you would do differently, especially as it relates to really the top 6, because that is the best talking point. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like. If you want to see mock draft part 2 or 2.0, that will be after the Super Bowl. So make sure you subscribe. We'll still be pumping out multiple videos per week. We'll have a Super Wildcard Weekend breakdown, 2 breakdowns coming out for you Wednesday and Friday. So again, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of that stuff. God bless you guys. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.